Ho, 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 gather around, boys and girls, mums and dads, grandmas and grandpas. Pull your blankets a little closer, wiggle your toes, make yourself comfortable because tonight Santa has a story about something very special. Not a sleigh, not a reindeer, not even a cookie, although, Santa does enjoy a good cookie. Ho, ho, ho! Tonight's story is about a stocking. But not just any stocking, this one held far more than presents. In a quiet town of Hollyberry Hollow, winter arrived gently each year like a soft blanket laid across the land. Snowflakes floated lazily across the air, through the air. The rooftops sparkled and every window glowed warmly with twinkling lights. But in one small blue house on Evergreen Lane lived a little boy named Oliver. Oliver loved Christmas. He loved the lights. He loved decorating the tree. He loved the smell of cinnamon cookies baking in the oven. But most of all Oliver loved hanging his stocking by the fireplace. Every year, Oliver would carefully place his bright red stocking on the mantel. It had its name stitched across the top in tiny, shiny gold letters. Oliver. Now, Oliver didn't just toss his stocking up there. Oh no. He placed the stocking like it was the most important thing in the whole house. He wouldn't fluff it. He straightened it. He checked it. And sometimes checked it again. His little sister Lucy would giggle. Oliver, she said, Santa won't miss it. Oliver would shrug proudly. Well, you never know. But this year was different. Oliver noticed something strange. Across the street named Mrs. Harper, a sweet elderly neighbor who always waved kindly but didn't seem to have many visitors. One snowy afternoon, Oliver saw her carrying a tiny box into the house. It was so small it looked like it barely held a pair of socks. Oliver tilted his head. That doesn't look like much Christmas, he said quietly. Lucy looked out the window too. Maybe she doesn't have anyone to celebrate with. Oliver's eyebrows slowly scrouched together. That thought stayed in his mind all evening. That night, Oliver sat near the fireplace staring at his stocking. He imagined what might be inside on Christmas morning. Chocolates, candy canes, little toys, maybe even a surprise or two. But then he thought about Mrs. Harper again and her tiny box. Oliver scrunched his chin. The next morning, Oliver ran to the kitchen. Mom, what if someone doesn't have a stocking? His mom looked curious. Well, she said gently, then Christmas might feel a little quieter for them. Oliver thought for a moment, then he went back to the fireplace, carefully lifted his stocking down. Lucy gasped. What are you doing? Oliver smiled. I have an idea. Oliver opened the stocking and placed something inside, a small chocolate bar, then another. Then he added one of his favorite candy canes. Lucy tilted her head. Why are you filling it already? Oliver grinned. You'll see. Later that afternoon, Oliver walked across the snowy street carrying the stocking. Lucy followed behind. They knocked on Mrs. Harper's door. Knock, knock, knock. After a moment, the door opened. Well, hello there, Mrs. Harper said warmly. Oliver held out the stocking. We thought maybe your house needed a stocking. Mrs. Harper blinked in surprise. Oh my goodness! She held the stocking gently. It's beautiful! Lucy pointed proudly and Oliver put candy in it. Mrs. Harper chuckled softly. Well, that was very thoughtful, but as Oliver and Lucy turned to leave, Mrs. Harper called out. Wait just a minute. She reached into the house and returned with something. A tiny wrapped cookie. For you, she said. Lucy sniffed it. It smells like cinnamon. Mrs. Harper winked. That's a secret ingredient. That night, Oliver hung his stocking back up on the fireplace. Lucy looked confused. "But you gave it away," Oliver grinned. "No, I didn't." He pulled another stocking from behind the couch. Lucy's eyes widened. "You had a backup stocking?" Oliver shrugged proudly. "Santa always says you should be prepared." The next day, something funny happened. Mrs. Harper knocked on Oliver's door. She handed him a small envelope. Inside was a drawing. It showed Oliver, Lucy, and Mrs. Harper standing together with a big smiling stocking. Lucy giggled. "That's us." Mrs. Harper smiled. "That stocking made my Christmas feel brighter." Oliver's chest warmed, and the story wasn't finished yet. Oh no, not even close. That evening, Oliver had another idea. What if other people needed stockings too? He asked Lucy. Lucy's eyes sparkled. "We could make more." So they did. They gathered old socks, colorful ribbons, buttons, fabric scraps, and before long the kitchen table looked like Santa's workshop. Lucy held up a sock. "This one looks like a giraffe." Oliver laughed. "That's supposed to be a snowman." Soon they had glue on their fingers, ribbons stuck to their elbows, buttons rolling across the table. Lucy accidentally glued two socks together. Oliver burst out laughing. "Congratulations," he said. "You invented the world's first double stocking." Lucy giggled. That means double candy. Soon their mom joined in, then their dad, and even Mrs. Harper came over with sewing supplies. And by the end of the evening, they had made 10 stockings. Lucy counted them proudly. 1, 2, 3, 10. Oliver grinned. "Let's fill them." They added candy, tiny toys, little handwritten notes that said, "You are special." "Merry Christmas. Someone cares about you." Lucy added one more note. "This stocking holds happiness." The next morning, Oliver and Lucy walked through Hollyberry Hollow delivering stockings. One went to the mail carrier, one went to the crossing guard, one went to the librarian, one went to the baker who always saved the warmest bread for neighbors. Each time someone opened the door and saw the stocking, their faces lit up. And that's what made Oliver smile even bigger. But something surprising began to happen. People who received stockings started making stockings for others. The mail carrier delivered one to the baker. The baker gave one to the firefighter. The firefighter brought one to the school. Soon, stockings were popping up all over Hollyberry Hollow. Lucy gasped one afternoon, "Oliver, look!" Every porch had a stocking hanging. Oliver blinked in amazement. "It's spreading." Mrs. Harper smiled softly. "Kindness tends to do that." A few days later, something even more wonderful happened. The whole town decided to decorate the big pine tree in town square. But instead of ornaments, everyone brought a stocking. Tiny ones, big ones, colorful ones, silly ones. One even had jingle bells that jingled every time the wind blew. Lucy laughed. "That tree sounds like Santa's sleigh." Oliver looked around the square. Neighbors were laughing. Kids were running through the snow. People were sharing cookies and hot cocoa. Mrs. Harper stood beside Oliver. "You see what you started?" she said softly. Oliver shook his head. "I just gave away a stocking." Mrs. Harper smiled, and sometimes that's all it takes. Far away at the North Pole, Santa was watching. Ho, ho, ho! You see, Santa notices when kindness spreads. He leaned back in his chair. "Well now," Santa said to Mrs. Claus, "that boy understands Christmas." Mrs. Claus nodded. "He certainly does." Santa winked. "I think we should do something special." Christmas Eve arrived. Snow drifted gently outside. Oliver and Lucy hung their stockings by the fire. Lucy whispered, "Do you think Santa knows what we did?" Oliver shrugged. "Maybe." Later that night, Santa arrived. Ho, ho, ho! He stepped quietly into the house. He saw the stockings, but something else caught his eye. On the table sat a leftover crafting supplies and the list of people Oliver had helped. Santa chuckled warmly. Well now, he reached into his sack, and instead of just filling Oliver's stocking with candy, Santa added something else, a little wooden box. And inside the box was a note. The next morning, Oliver and Lucy ran to the fireplace. "Santa came, Santa came," Lucy shouted. Oliver reached into his stocking, candy, chocolate, and a little wooden box. He opened it, and inside was Santa's note. It read, "Dear Oliver, this stocking held more than presents this year. It held kindness, it held generosity, and it held the spirit of Christmas. And that kind of magic spreads farther than any sleigh can travel. Keep sharing your big heart. Ho, 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 Santa." Later that day, the doorbell rang, and when Oliver opened up the door, half the neighborhood was standing there, and each one was holding a stocking. Lucy whispered, "It's stocking magic." Oliver smiled, and Santa far away at the North Pole leaned back in his chair with a proud smile, because sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest gifts of all. Ho, ho, ho! But the story of the stocking just wasn't finished. Oh no, because kindness has a funny way of growing when you least expect it. The very next day, Oliver and Lucy woke up to something surprisingly. There were footprints in the snow outside of their house. Not little ones, not boot prints, but dozens and dozens of footprints going to different directions all across Evergreen Lane. Lucy pressed her nose against the window. "Oliver, look." Oliver ran over. People were walking up and down the street carrying stockings. Lots of them. Bright ones, striped ones, polka dot ones. One even had a picture of a dancing penguin stitched to it. Lucy burst out laughing. The penguin looks like it ate too many cookies. Oliver grinned. Santa might approve of that penguin. They rushed outside into the chilly morning area. Across the street, Mrs. Harper was standing with several neighbors, and right in the middle of the street stood the town mayor holding a large basket full of stockings. "Well, good morning, Oliver," the mayor said cheerfully. Oliver blinked. "Good morning, what's happening?" Mrs. Harper stepped forward with a warm smile. "Your idea has spread all across Hollyberry Hollow." The mayor nodded. "People are making stockings for neighbors they don't even know yet." Lucy's eyes grew wider. "Really?" "Oh yes," the mayor said. "Yesterday the bakery delivered 12 stockings to the hospital, and the school made 20 more. Another neighbor added, and the fire station filled an entire tree with stockings," said someone else. Oliver stood very still for a moment. He looked down at the stocking he was holding, the same bright one that had started it all. "I didn't know it would get this big," he said. Mrs. Harper chuckled softly. "Kindness usually does." That afternoon, the town square was buzzing with excitement. Tables were set up, hot cocoa was steaming in big silver kettles. Children were decorating stockings with glitter and ribbons. Lucy dipped her fingers into a bowl of buttons. "Oliver, this one looks like Snowman's nose." Oliver held up the stocking covered in bright stars. "This one looks like a galaxy." Mrs. Harper was helping a group of little children sew bells onto their stockings. Jingle, 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 jingle. Soon the whole square sounded like tiny sleigh bells singing. Even the baker joined in. He hung a stocking shaped like a giant loaf of bread. Lucy laughed so hard she nearly fell into the snow. "That bread stocking needs butter." Ha! Oliver wiped tears of laughter from his eyes. Santa might eat that one. That as evening came, the town gathered around the giant pine square at the center of the square. But the tree looked different now. Instead of ornaments, it was covered in hundreds of stockings. Tiny ones, huge ones, silly ones, beautiful ones. Every branch held something bright and colorful. Lucy gasped. "It looks like a stocking forest." Oliver whispered, It looks like a Christmas Groove heart. The mayor stepped forward. I think we should call this tree something special. The crowd leaned in. What should we call it? Someone asked. Mrs. Harper looked at Oliver and smiled. How about the kindness tree? Everyone cheered. Lucy jumped up and down. The kindness tree, the kindness tree. Far away at the North Pole, Santa was watching again. Ho, ho, ho. Santa leaned back in his chair and laughed warmly. Well now, Santa said, scratching his beard, that might be the most beautiful tree I've seen all year. Mrs. Claus peeked over her shoulder. Even prettier than your sleigh? Santa grinned. Well, almost. Then Santa looked down at his long list, and next to Oliver's name he wrote something very special. Not toys, not candy, but 3 simple words. Big, kind heart. And Santa smiled because sometimes the greatest Christmas gifts are the ones that keep growing long after the snow melts. Ho, ho, ho! The moral of the story is the greatest gifts we can give are not toys or candy, but kindness, generosity, and the willingness to think about others. Oliver discovered that when we share even a small act of kindness, it can grow and spread further than we ever imagined. When we care about people and give from the heart, we can help create a world filled with warmth, friendship, and joy. True Christmas magic lives in the kindness we share every single day. Wasn't that awesome, boys and girls, mums and dads? Stick around, because Santa's got some more stories lined up. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my website, santapapajohn.com. Santa loves you. Ho, ho, ho.